Hey, how's it going? Welcome to The Edge's Facebook's page #1 show at this particular time. 3 to 5 things we did not have time to talk about today. Brought to you by our luxurious sponsor, Corey's Clothiers, 569 Danforth Avenue. Do you look disgusting? Go to Corey's. They'll make you look less disgusting. Oh, but seriously, I wanted to say something serious about Corey's. I had to go golfing like 2 weeks ago at like a place where I had to wear pants. I couldn't wear shorts, which is weird for me because I always golf in shorts. Like even when it's cold, I just deal with it. Okay. So I went and it was super sunny and I was wearing these black pants that I got at Corey's and legitimately felt like I was wearing nothing at all. Like they just breathed. It was amazing. They're the Alberto 5 pocket pant. Go there. If you golf a lot, you'll love them because then you can wear those when it's hot and you don't got to worry about mosquitoes on your legs for when you're digging for your ball on the side of like a water hazard, which doesn't happen to me because I'm like the best, but if you're not good, never mind. All right, first up, let's take a look at that. You know what that is? It's not some sort of weird British food that nobody wants to eat. It's actually a giant ball of hair that was removed from a young girl's stomach in India. Apparently she's been eating hair for the last few years, and it turned into a massive clump in her stomach, and it was actually taking up 80% of her stomach was just hair. Look at that. That is disgusting. You know what it is? And here's the sad part. This is the world that we live in today. She wasn't able to eat a lot of food, so she wasn't gaining any weight. She was wasting away. And you know what the first comment I saw about this online was? Oh my God, that'd be a great way to lose weight if I just had a giant ball of hair in my stomach. I wouldn't need to go to the gym because I couldn't eat anything. That's how lazy we are. We are literally looking for anything, like a magic pill that can prevent us from having to exercise so that we can just not be fat. That's the way people's brains are these days. I don't want to be healthy. I just want to look good. Like taking AIDS, appetite suppressant candy. What a fortunately named product, AIDS. What are you doing, just popping some AIDS? That's a legitimate product. A legitimate product. AIDS. Appetite suppressant candy. It's so ridiculous that I don't even know if it's like a Saturday Night Live fake product. Like the Love Toilet, which by the way, is one of the best digital shorts that they ever. The Love Toilet, look it up. It's one of the funniest things you will ever see. Kevin Nealon is amazing in it. No one plays faux in love better than Kevin Nealon. Fantastic stuff. You know what the key to not getting too big is? Eating a lot of vegetables. Eat as much vegetables as you can. Vegetables are cheap. You don't got to buy the good vegetables. You just got to fill up on the vegetables. As much vegetables. Just walk around eating some broccoli, okay? Here's a weird thing about vegetables. Eat them raw. Just eat them raw whenever you can. It's good for you to eat them raw. Actually, interestingly enough, tomatoes are better for you if you heat them up a little bit. I read that some sort of it starts like a little breakdown process of the chemicals involved, so you get more vitamins out of a tomato that's a little bit cooked rather than a raw one. But tomatoes are fruits. Ha-ha! Tricked ya! Anyways, so eat as many vegetables as you can all the time. Vegetables are a lot cheaper than you realize. Just go through the produce aisle, get vegetables, and eat them. Okay? That's good. You don't need to put giant balls of hair in your stomach. Just eat vegetables. That's the key. As much vegetables as possible. I was actually looking at some pictures. You know how they always do on the Toronto website? They always show Toronto back in the 1940s. And I looked at the beach, okay? There's a picture of people on the beach. Everyone was they looked fit. I would be like the fattest guy on the beach in those pictures. And then when I was looking at the pictures, I started looking about what are people eating back then that we're not eating now. Most people, 90% of what they ate then was locally grown vegetables and produce. That's what they ate. We eat so much processed food now. We need to stop eating processed food and just eat vegetables. Locally grown vegetables. Grow them in your backyard. Eat them. Go home. Just pick vegetables out of the dirt and eat them. Dirt vegetables. So good. The dirt inside, the grit will clean crap off your teeth. The vegetables, vitamins will go down and they'll make you poop. And you'll be having a good time. It's true. Vegetables. Eat them. They're really good. Look at that. Oh, that's my favorite thing. It's the moon. I was reading today that there is a mining company in the United States that is contracting with SpaceX to launch mining equipment to the surface of the moon, and they would like to have the preliminary establishment of a mining colony on the moon within the next 10 years. I think that is some friggin' awesome stuff, man. But you know what's sad about it? Is it feels like space is now being taken over by the private sector. And it kind of upsets me a little bit. I'll tell you why. Like, I was doing some, like, reading about, like, how both the Russians and the Chinese and even Japan are getting ready to send more people to the moon to build permanent colonies on there. It's like, it used to be that NASA ran the show. NASA was doing everything. Have you ever watched, there's a fantastic documentary that was done by PBS years ago, and it was narrated by Gary Sinise, and it was called When We Left the Earth, the NASA Missions, and it talks about the beginnings of NASA right through to its quasi-demise, meaning when they stopped going to the moon. They talk about Space Lab and all that stuff, but when you look at the things that the space program did and the innovations that came out of the space program, and then you look at the lack of innovation that has been happening since then, it is impossible to not get genuinely depressed. And the frustrating thing is that I understand that there are a lot of things that need money. We just need more money going to more things. We need social programs and infrastructure and all that. But there is something to be said for the morale boost people get when they see other people do amazing things. Louis C.K. makes a very tongue-in-cheek point about the greatest things that humans have ever done have been accomplished by throwing human suffering upon human suffering upon human suffering until it just gets done. The railroad across the states, the pyramids in Egypt, the Great Wall in China, you name it. The biggest things we've ever done have been accomplished by suffering and suffering and suffering. But when you look at those things, they still inspire people today, and they were built hundreds and thousands of years ago. Isn't it nice to just have something to believe in? Like, wouldn't you like to think that there's a possibility your kids could go to the moon? Would that not be cool? Yes. It would also be cool if you were poor, knowing that your kid could go to a doctor and get medicine. I appreciate that sentence, too. Just saying it would be nice. Am I wrong? Am I going off course here? All right, moving along. Game of Thrones returns to HBO Canada, 9 p.m. Sunday night. Who's going to die? Who knows? Who's going to die? Before I get into the who's going to die thing, I was reading that HBO was saying that they don't want to risk over-exploiting the Game of Thrones franchise, the Song of Ice and Fire, as it were. They've also kind of given the green light to like 5 pilots, which are all in development. Now, here's the weird thing. 5 spinoffs from Game of Thrones. Like, we don't know if those are going to be movies or TV shows or anything. And that doesn't mean all 5 are going to get approved, okay? There's a possibility that, like, none of them are going to get approved. We'll have to wait and see. Hope one of them is Dunkin' Egg. That'd be really awesome. But Sunday night, 9 p.m., Game of Thrones comes back. Who's going to die? We don't know who's going to die. Woo! What amazing photoshopery that is. So we've got Jon Snow. Jon Snow's not going to die. He's not going to die. And I'll tell you why he's not going to die. Because they already killed him once. I thought that, like, he would be the first person to ever get killed twice. I don't think he's going to die. Although if he did, I wouldn't mind. Here's the thing. I want the next death to have people upset, not excited. That's why I don't think Cersei Lannister is going to be the next one to die. Because no one's going to get upset when Cersei Lannister dies. Well, some people will. I'm sure some people will. But Cersei, here's the thing. Up until the end of last season, I was kind of rooting for Cersei because every single thing that she had done for her children to help them succeed and go far. Okay? And then, like, the thing that happened with the shame, like, that's rough. That's a rough go. All right? But then, when she killed everyone at the end of last season, she knew that her son Tommen was going to kill himself. She did that knowing that would happen. That was her plan. She planned to have her child die. And at that point, she was doing things for herself rather than for her children. And that was her saving grace. Because the horrible things that she was responsible for, such as, throwing Bran out of a window, like, she did that because she didn't want to end up being found out as somebody who's been having sex with her brother and then having children, and then all of her children would get killed, and then she would also get killed. So she did that for her kids too. So that was it. But now she's doing things for herself. It's different. Tyrion's not going to die. I'll tell you why Tyrion's not going to die, because George R.R. Martin has said this on multiple interviews, that whenever he hits writer's block, he always just writes scenes for Tyrion because they're his favorite thing to write and favorite thing to do. So if Tyrion dies, we'll probably never get any more books. So that's not going to happen, because he signed a very significant deal with HarperCollins for that 7th and final book. Sandor Clegane, probably not going to die either, because once again, we already thought he was dead. Now they're saying that this year is going to feature the Clegane Bowl, where Sandor Clegane is going to fight his brother, Gregor Clegane, the mountain that rides. Who's going to win? I don't know. Don't know who's going to win. But, oh man, we thought Sandor Clegane had died. We also thought Gregor Clegane had died, and both have come back from the dead. Ha ha! Ha! So either one of them, that's groundbreaking stuff. Can Gregor Clegane be killed? Because he's the homunculus, or whatever the term is that they use in the book. He's like a living dead person. Can he die? I don't know. But that's... Sandor Clegane, he's got the scars because his brother held his face in a fire. He's an angry guy. A lot of fire going on. Have to wait and see what happens there. Jaime Lannister dies, I'll be legitimately upset, and here's why. Because I'm a big fan of redemption story arcs, and when you first meet Jaime Lannister, the very first episode, he literally throws a child out of a window. It's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to come back from that, and he does. Because you realize that, like Cersei Lannister had done all those terrible things for her kid, all the terrible things Jaime did, he did for his sister because he loved her. Which is weird and twisted, but hey, who am I to judge? I love the Ptolemaic dynasty in Egypt, and they were inbreeding all the time. Apparently Cleopatra was like one of the greatest looking women in history, and she's legitimately the product of inbreeding. She married her 13-year-old brother when she was 20. That's history, man. That's legitimate history. Look it up. And then you find out that he is the Kingslayer, and the reason he killed the king was because the king was about to burn everybody alive in King's Landing. So he sacrificed his own. He does a great speech about there's so many oaths. You're supposed to protect the poor. You're supposed to obey the king. But what if the king wants to kill the poor? What do you do then? Great point, Jaime Lannister. You're a good guy. Love the guy. So if he dies, I'll be actually upset because he's come so far. He's redeemed himself so much. Remember that scene where he's talking to one of the Frey brothers and they complain to him and he just straight up bitch slaps the guy? He's like, I am listened to. That is what you do. Oh, he's so great. Anyways, Arya can't die. I'll be upset if Arya dies too because she murders people. And I can get behind someone who's just out for revenge. It's a very simple and direct storyline. It's fine with it. And Bran Stark, that's only a half death, because only half of his body is working anyways. Sure, he's a warg, can control animals, but that's not a Game of Thrones style death. If he was gonna die, he'll die in the dream world. Just want to make that clear that I wasn't trying to be not sensitive to the physically differently abled. Okay, I'm just saying in terms of the show. That's not how George R.R. Martin rolls. I feel like I'm so worried about myself making people mad. Anyways, Dunk and Egg. That's a show. That's a book series. It's a collection of short stories novellas from George R. R. Martin. You should really read. Nobody's confirmed that is one of the pilots that they're working on, one of the projects and spin-offs that they're working on. Nobody's confirmed that. But I'm hoping it's true because the Dunk and Egg stories are absolutely fantastic. You should check them out. They're also available in comic form. Oh man! The Battle of the Trident between Robert and Dany's older brother. I'm currently forgetting his name right now. Rhaegar Targaryen? Oh, is Robert Baratheon about to smash his chest with a hammer and then jewels are going to fall in that are still being found today? Today meaning the setting of the show. Not today, because it's not real. The books. Anyways, yeah, Robert Baratheon. And I just want to say that these helmets are terribly impractical. If you're in battle, you just got to nudge that helmet a bit on the side, and the whole thing turns in front of his face. He's not going to be able to see. That's a ridiculous design, but it still looks really cool. Anyways, moving on. Oh, trolls. Why am I talking about trolls from The Hobbit? Well, there was a study that was saying that 40% of adults have admitted to being harassed online, experiencing harassment online on the internet. Who cares? I'm going to make a bolder statement. 100% of people have been harassed in real life. So what's worse, online harassment or real life harassment? I'll tell you this, neither one is worse. I'll be granted, one of them can involve getting wedgies in phys ed class from Chris Sherman and Harold Semenuk, and one can involve being shoved into a locker by Doug O'Gorman, Corey Hubik, and Johnny Semenuk, and then you pee in your green sweatpants. That doesn't generally happen online, but it can happen in real life. Now, the reason I'm talking about that is because they're saying that they need to start raising children to have a bully-free environment so that children don't grow up feeling like nervous and feeling harassed by older children and younger children. Just they want kids to be in a safe place. But here's the thing. You are going to get bullied for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter what programs, what initiatives, whatever they do. People get harassed everywhere. You get harassed at work by bullies. You get harassed at school by bullies. I'm not saying we shouldn't be doing things to prevent it from happening. But I am saying that hand in hand with all of those efforts to prevent it from happening, we should be teaching children to deal with bullying. Give them the tools to cope with it. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying we should pretend that, oh, it doesn't matter, it's not a big deal, because some kids get picked on so much they kill themselves, and that's legitimately tragic. Not everybody that gets picked on at school gets to go home to loving parents and gets told that they're valuable and beautiful and wonderful and they're going to grow up to lead amazing lives. Some of these kids go to school, get crapped on all day, then they go to home and they get it even worse. We should be teaching kids coping methods. We should be giving kids options. Kids Help Phone is one of the most important things in this country because it gives kids an outlet to just have somebody tell them good things and tell them that things are going to get better. But we need to be doing something to give them tools to deal with that, more than just the Kids Help Phone. I really, really think that kids' self-esteem is a legitimate issue. I'm not saying that we should tell kids, oh, you're never going to fail at anything, because you are going to fail. You need to learn how to deal with failure, just like you need to learn how to deal with bullies. There's bullies on the global stage too. And I'm going to get into that in my next point because I really need to point the finger at the United States being a bit of a bully in terms of what happened with our good friend Omar Khadr. That's not Omar Khadr, by the way. That is Tabitha Spear. She is a woman who earlier today had her injunction against Omar Khadr overturned. She was Omar Khadr. Okay. This is a big one that I know is going to make people mad. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. People are going to get mad with what I'm about to say about Omar Khadr. Omar Khadr was awarded $10 million, $10.5 million from the Canadian government because of what happened to him. For those who don't know, back in 2002, I think it was 2002, he was wounded during a battle. Did you say battle? Skirmish, battle, whatever. People were killed with American forces. He was 14 or 15 years old, allegedly threw a grenade that exploded, killed Tabitha Spear's husband, also partially blinded another U.S. soldier, like literally gouged out part of his face and his eye. The pictures of that are pretty graphic. Tabitha Spear, who lost her husband and believes Omar Khadr is the one who killed her husband, was trying to get some of the money that Omar Khadr got from the Canadian government because she doesn't understand why we would give somebody who admitted to throwing a grenade that killed people should be getting money from the Canadian government. And this is why this story is so frustrating, okay? When you're a parent, you deal with this situation a lot. It's a situation where there's so much shit layered upon so much shit layered upon so much shit that no matter what you do, you feel like you're making the wrong decision, okay? It's like a series of dominoes that just kind of falls all on top of each other. Did Omar Khadr deserve $10.5 million? No, I don't believe that he did, okay? But that does not in any way mean I don't think he deserves nothing. You know, did that sentence make sense? He deserves something, but I don't feel that he deserves $10.5 million. Because Omar Khadr was dealt a raw friggin' deal. But a lot of people are dealt raw friggin' deals. His just happens to be exceedingly more raw than others. So to understand Omar Khadr, you got to understand what happened with him and what happened with his life. He was born here in Toronto, right here in the GTA, back in the 80s. I think it was the late 80s. It was 87, because he's 30 years old. And then his family, like his father, went back to Pakistan. He was dealing with aid work with people coming from Afghanistan. His mother didn't like the Western influences of society on her family, so they also moved back there. During that time, his father was arrested for assisting in terrorism. He was allegedly involved in a group of people that plotted to bomb the Egyptian embassy in Pakistan. He was eventually released because they said that they didn't have evidence. And here's the thing. Whenever there's these situations, one of the people that I talk to a lot is my father, because my father is a worldly guy who's been on multiple peacekeeping missions with NATO and with the UN. He's been in a lot of places that I would be terrified to walk in. And he has a very, very balanced view of things. So what he says when I talk to him about this, because I haven't talked about this story, because even though it happened like a week ago, because it's touchy and we're dealing with severe situations that are very extreme. When I talked to him about Omar Khadr's father, specifically why that case was just let go, he said, you're dealing with a country that is dealing with a lot of big fish, and they're going after the big fish, not the small fish that are connected to it. Was he part of that bombing? It's entirely possible, and his father's actions after the fact strongly indicate that he was. Where was Omar Khadr before this grenade was thrown? His family and him were living in Osama bin Laden's compound, okay? You're dealing with a guy who was raised in an environment that was exceedingly extreme, that was exceedingly strongly pushing him towards that type of lifestyle. Was he the kid that was involved in throwing the grenade? We don't know. When Omar Khadr was found, he was very, very severely wounded, and he was begging the soldiers to kill him. That's how wounded he was. He was 14 years old and asked to be killed. The soldiers, one of the sergeants has gone on record saying, I was totally fine with killing him. I just saw him kill 2 of my friends. So one of the special forces soldiers that was there said, at Delta Force, legitimate Delta Force, not Chuck Norris, but like the real Delta Force, said, do not kill him. We're taking this guy prisoner. That's when things get really ridiculous for Omar Khadr. So he's taken, he's healed. They send him to Guantanamo Bay. Where they threatened to gang rape him until he confesses to the things that he did. They starve him. He was tortured. He was waterboarded. And we're not talking about some hardened, 30-year-old dude here. We're talking about somebody who would be in junior high. They don't have junior highs in Ontario. Who would be in, elementary school, like a middle school here in Ontario. He's 14 friggin' years old here, man. And they're threatening to gang rape the kid. Where's Canada in all this? Where's our government? Because he's a Canadian citizen and is entitled to our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. We're supposed to be protecting this guy. Well, those who don't know, there was an infamous little speech from Colin Powell where he said, you're either with us or against us. And you can hate the United States all you want, but we here in Canada cannot function without the American government. We can't function. They're our biggest trading partners. So when the Americans come along and say, no, this kid is ours, they threaten trade sanctions. This isn't confirmed, but I've read a lot of places that it was. They threatened trade sanctions specifically involving Omar Khadr. What's the government supposed to do? This is one of those, there's no right decision you can make here. You either abandon a 15-year-old kid who's being detained as a global terrorist, or you risk the jobs of a few 100,000 people. What do you do? What's the right decision? What is the right decision to make? This is what I'm asking you as the viewer. What do you do? Because I've seen, this is what frustrates me. I've seen so many people that are like, he deserves $100 million for what he endured. The government abandoned him. Well, yeah, they abandoned him. Of course they did. What were they supposed to do? And I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying, what would you do? Would you knowingly risk the livelihoods of a few 100,000 people for one person? This is why they always say psychopaths should be running big businesses and governments, because they have no emotional connection to anything. So when Omar Khadr finally does get released, his lawyers clearly have access to a lot of shady things that the government doesn't want us to know. And his first lawsuit was for only $100,000. And gradually it got up to $20 million. Now he's getting $10 million. Does he deserve it? I still don't think so, and here's why. I've completely avoided all of your amazing Photoshop pictures that you did today, Matthew, involving the Omar Khadr stuff, because I'm really on a tirade here. Here's why. Because we sent a lot of young people to Afghanistan, and we gave all of them the promise that when they came back from Afghanistan, we as a country would look after them. Some of them had their legs blown off. Some of them had their eyes blown apart. Some of them can't see. Some of them have suffered really severe mental stresses. Some of them don't have hands anymore. Some of them are dead. Lots of them are dead. And what have we done as a country for all of them? Not a lot. We've been shutting down veteran centers left, right, and center. Left, right, and center. You're not dealing with like people that are well. Some of these people really did suffer, and we promised them that we'd look after them. So we broke our promise to a lot of people. And then we're going to give one guy $10 million? That's the thing, is there's no right decision here. There's no right decision. There's no way the government can come across on this and not look terrible. Because they've done a lot of horrible things to a lot of people. And not just the soldiers that went over there, but to the aid workers and to their families. What did they get? Can you try and imagine, like, we're talking about Miss Spear here. Try and imagine, if you will, she lost her husband close to like 20 years ago, like 15 years ago, she loses her husband. He's never coming back. Never coming back. What does she get? Nothing. She gets nothing. What do all these families over here get? Nothing. They get nothing. We're making it more difficult for them to even get help around their house or to get psychological services. And then we give this one guy $10.5 million. I'm not saying he didn't deal with a lot of crap, because he did. I'm just saying, like, how do you... It's a horrible situation. In the end, I'd just like everybody to be happy, but I will be very shocked if this is the end of the road for this story. It's just going to keep spinning. Omar Khadr, you suffered horribly, and I wish you the best, and I totally wish you get a fresh start in life, because you totally deserve one, because they totally hooped you, but a lot of people got hooped. I have nothing more to say. I'm totally done, because it's a horrible situation.